Episode 459 of the AMPM podcast. This week, I'm speaking with Cara Sayer. Cara has been selling online since she invented her product in 2009. She's been on Amazon over 10 years, but the key thing here is she's not an Amazon seller. She's a brand owner, and that's what we're going to talk about, the importance of brand and how to differentiate between being just a seller and being a brand. Enjoy this episode with Cara Sayer.
Welcome to the AMPM podcast. Welcome to the AMPM podcast, where we explore opportunities in e-commerce.
We dream big and we discover what's working right now.
Plus, this is the podcast where money never sleeps, working around the clock in the AM and the PM.
Are you ready for today's episode?
I said, are you ready? Let's do this. Here's your host, Kevin King. Kevin King.
Look what I got on the AMPM podcast today. I got a special one for you. I got the beautiful Cara Sayer. How are you doing, Cara?
Yeah, really, really good. Busy as ever, flying around, going to some useful conferences, meeting useful people, having interesting conversations, learning about things every day. Every day is a school day. So, my daughter's just passed her driving test, which is very scary to think that she's now on the roads. Haven't actually yet had in fact, this is something I need to bring up with her. I haven't actually had a useful lift from her yet. So, haven't been to a restaurant or bar or something and then got her to pick me up, which is what all my friends' children do. But she's just gaily gallivanting around in her car and mummy's just sitting at home crying quietly.
And I thought today's age, I know a lot of kids I don't know, what's the legal age in the UK?
In the UK, you can, you get your driver's license at 17.
I'll say it's 16 in most of the US.
It is.
And I know several people several of my friends that have young kids, and when they turn 16, a lot of them now don't even want to drive. They're like, "What's the point? I got Uber and Lyft, or my buddy's got a car." I remember when I turned 16, I was first one in line at 7 a.m. in the morning when the driving license office opened to take the test.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, to be fair, she drives herself to school. She's got a job in a restaurant, so she drives herself there. She trains coaches other children in cricket. So she's got quite a busy little life, and it's great, actually. I don't have to drive her around anymore. So mum's taxi has been retired.
Oh, but you know that between 16 and 18 is the most accident-prone time of a driver's life.
Well, she'll probably not really appreciate me saying this, but she has already had a slight prang, and she's also almost had a speeding ticket, which luckily they've let her off as such, so she has to do a speed awareness. So she's not done too badly considering she's only 17 and passed her driving test about 5 weeks ago. Having said that, sometimes I feel like these lessons are put upon you to learn. So she's now like, I will never speed again, and try and get into a parking space that I can't easily get into again. I'm like, good, because that's actually a very important life lesson.
Yeah, that is. They got to learn it. You got to let them go, and they got to learn it, and just pray that they stay safe.
Exactly. So she's actually quite a good little driver, actually. Even people who haven't seen her drive before are like, oh, she's quite confident and, not a scary driver. I think, if I'm honest, boys are worse than girls as a general rule.
I think so too. But I mean, I think you're a pretty good little driver. You're driving a very successful little Amazon business there.
That's a good move into that.
that you've been doing for quite some time. I mean, I know the general story a little bit, but maybe for the audience, you can tell them how long you've been playing this game.
So, as I think you know as well, I don't actually consider myself to be an Amazon seller.
That's true.
So I actually consider myself, which is actually true, to be a brand, and Amazon is my most large and successful sales channel. But I actually started 15 years ago now. In 2010, I launched. So I started my idea process around 2008. So that was when Holly was just around a year old, something like that. And I'd had an idea for a product that would help her sleep when we were out and about with a stroller, would also keep her protected from the sun, the insects, wind, chill, etc. And I looked around and I couldn't find a product that did that. And so I don't even, to be honest, to this day, I still don't really know why I decided to do it. I think I'm a problem solver. If you give me a problem, first thing I'm like, oh, how do I solve that? That's great. So I decided to start inventing something, and I created something that I found the prototype the other day and it's completely useless. But I kind of came up with the concept, started working on it, started talking to people. Remember, this is like before Instagram. Facebook was there, but not really very big. Twitter had only just launched at the end of 2009. And so I came up with the concept of basically a blackout blind and shade for the stroller. And I found a manufacturer again. Remember, this is all nowadays, it's all much easier to access. How do you find a manufacturer? How do you find someone in China or anywhere really? And I did all of it through contacts. So I used to work for a publishing house, and we used to put things called cover mounts on the front of a magazine, which is all the free gifts you get. Like, you'll get like a free makeup bag or a free shaving kit or whatever it might be. And those are called cover mounts. And I worked for a baby magazine, and I said, well, who's doing the cover mounts for them? Because I knew when I worked there that they had to be safety tested. And I've always been obsessed with safety, and producing something for my own baby is one thing, but I wanted to make sure my products were super safe. Got given the details of someone who I still work with now. So 15 years on, I'm still working with the same manufacturer who basically produces, her real business, I say, is producing promotional gifts for like brands like Zero and Zoom and Facebook and all that sort of thing. Peloton was one. And then she was a mother of 4. So I went to meet her, told her what my idea was. And she was like, oh, that's genius. Really good idea. And I started working on prototypes with her and the factory, etc. And got to a point where I was like, okay, what am I going to do with this? And there was a trade show. In the US, you've got the ABC Kids. And in the UK, we had one called BPA, which no longer happens. But they had an innovation area, which was a slightly cheaper area for new young brands to go in and show their stuff. So I went in thinking, well, worst case scenario, people will just laugh me out of town. That's not a problem. But I also would get feedback. I wasn't even really looking to sell, actually. I was just looking to get feedback about whether the concept was a good one. And then I actually had an order placed by one of the larger retail chains in the UK, independent retail chains, which is called Jojo Maman Bebe. And I think they've now recently, not that long ago, expanded into the US market. And they placed an order on the spot. And I was like, excuse my friend, what do I do now?
Did you even have a price at that point, or did you have to just make up a price?
I was still working out my pricing. So at the time, that was one of the reasons it was great going to that show, because I still use the pricing model from then that I created then. I'm still using it now. So I sort of spoke to a few people, and actually what I found out was there was a product that was, I say similar, it wasn't really similar, but it had a similar concept that had literally launched a couple of weeks before I went to the show. And before I went to the show, I was like, oh, what's the point? Why am I bothering? There's another product out there that's going to do a similar thing. And they've obviously got more contacts and all the rest of it. Anyway, their product wasn't if I'm honest, as good as mine. And so lots of people were like, oh, actually yours is a lot better. It's better quality. It's better this, it's better that. You should charge more. So I was like, okay. So I came up with my final price. And then just told the retailer, this is the price, the RRP, the manufacturer's price, and this is the price that you'll be buying it from. And then I went into full scale production, so the show was in the October. So Christmas that year was fun. I was like literally pulling my hair out, all sorts of things, like rushing everything through. And then the Icelandic, and we know about Iceland and volcanoes from our recent trip to BDSS. And the volcano exploded in 2010, which then shut all the airways down for quite a long time. And so I ended up flying product in because it was selling so fast. I needed to get stock in. So that cost me an absolute fortune, even in those days. And I basically, the amount of stock that I'd worked on for the first year, I sold, I think, in about 7 months.
This was coming from China?
Yeah, it was coming from China.
Well, and so then this big retailer took it. Then did you expand out? Other retailers start come knocking and saying, hey, we want it too? Or?
Yeah, so I'd made a few other contacts with other retailers at the show, and also just afterwards. That was another thing that was useful, making contact with other brands, and they had contacts at other retailers. So I started stalking everyone, and I got into other retailers. I also picked up my first UK distributor there as well. So they then got me into all of the big boys. So I went into like Tesco and Boots, like the equivalent of like Target and Walmart, and all of those big like retailers. And so basically my product was in like every single major UK retailer in the country within about the first sort of 9 months of launch. I think it was on sale I think it's been on sale via the distributor. They were selling it on Amazon via Vendor Central, and then I think they then also sold to smaller resellers as well. So there were quite a lot of people selling it right from the get-go.
So did you worked for a baby magazine? Did they give you some press, or they do anything for you in that?
Yeah, I actually won an award from them, I think before launching pretty much, which was good. And I also got a quote from their editor who looked after product recommendations. And she did a quote saying it's like a really fantastic idea and every parent needs one, sort of thing. So yeah, I maximized. So my background is PR and marketing before I had Holly. So I actually was on the team that launched Amazon in the UK when it was a book warehouse in Slough back in 2000.
Oh, really?
As well.
On the PR, you're on the PR team, not.
Yeah, I worked for an agency that was part of the launch strategy, and I launched online food shopping in the UK with Tesco, which is one of the big grocery stores. So my background's always been more PR marketing, which is why I always sort of laugh, really, because Amazon for me is an absolute pain. Excuse my French, because it is so irritating and so frustrating. When there's a problem, it always seems to get exemplified by about 1,000-fold. And it can be really, really challenging. But I don't really think about it that much, if I'm honest, in my day-to-day business. It's just somewhere where I know my customers buy my product.
So what year did you actually jump to start selling on Amazon? So you said your distributor was doing it wholesale into Amazon, but then what year did you actually?
I also had like a US distributor, New Zealand distributor, Australia distributor, UAE distributor. I had multiple distributors, etc. The crunch point was getting divorced, which is always a fun time in life. And
oh yeah, that's always a blast.
Unfortunately,
done that too.
We have that in common.
Yeah, we do.
So basically I was in a position where I had to really look at the numbers of the business. And so whilst it looked great from the outside, there was a lot of volume, the actual net margin was quite low. Because obviously when you sell to a distributor, you've got to sell to a distributor at a price where they've got to be able to make money and sell to the retailer. And the retailers sometimes want, one of them in the UK wants 60% margin. So you've got to factor that in. So and also the other thing is there's a lot of risk doing that as well in terms of having to produce like volume of stock. So I would have to, like Tesco would say, we want 4,000 units. So I'd have to produce that 4,000 units. Whether they bought them or not was neither here nor there. And I mean, usually they did. And sometimes, in fact, they would complain because I'd run out of stock. And I'd be like, well, you told me you wanted 4,000. I've given you 4,000. Like, literally, what else do you want me to do? So when I was getting divorced, I really, really looked at the numbers and I was like, do you know what? I need to take the middleman out of this because I need to be selling more direct. And then I saw on Facebook, and you'll obviously know the reality of this and the fact that these are obviously true stories, is the fact that you can sit on the beach all day and just hear the tick-tick ka-chinging into your Amazon account.
I know, isn't it great? Isn't it great?
I love it. So you just sit there drinking cocktails with your sunnies on a beach lounger. And,
exactly.
And products on Amazon. And I thought, wow, I want me some of that. Thank you very much. So
toes in the sand and just with a nice drink in your hand.
Exactly. So I thought, yes, I'll have me some of that. Thank you very much. But then I went to a conference, which I have to say, I look back on now. I mean, oh my God, it was a dreadful conference. It was a real. I can't even remember the name of the people who did it. But like they did everything like that I hate in some conferences. They had people up on the stage where my mum was dying of cancer and my Amazon business. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like seriously, like, hardcore. I was like, oh God. And then they did the whole, run to the front of the stage. I'm like, sod that. I don't run. Thank you. So there was all of this rubbish going on. But what it did make me realize is that there are people out there who were selling at the time a lot of garlic crushers and posture, adjusters and all that. And they were making a lot of money. And I thought, well, if they're selling fairly boring products, really, and making a lot of money, I must be able to do better selling my product, which has actually got some real USPs, etc., and some extra sauce behind it. So one of the things I had to do was take a reality pill, which is sometimes I think when you are more of a brand, you get a bit like, oh, well, I am a brand, bloody blue blue. But you have to forget all that and go back to what is your basic crunch point product, So it's great if people are looking for the brand, but what are they looking for if they don't know about you? So, for example, my products have always been number one. In fact, I don't think I've ever lost number one position for more than a few days, and that's usually to a rain cover in my category in 15 years. In that category, people are looking for a pram sunshade. Now, I actually invented the product primarily to help my daughter sleep. And most people, or many people, buy it for sleep as well. But it's interesting, there isn't a sleep shade category on Amazon. So you have to go where the money is, basically. And if I'm honest, like Amazon pretty much just told me that's where your category, your product is going to be. And I think it was also just sort of taking out some of the rubbish that was probably in the titles. I mean, what I actually ended up having to do was, first of all, I had to take quite a big pill to swallow. Was I basically had to not sell to anyone who could then sell on Amazon. So I had to take about 6 months out where I had to wait for them to sell all the stock, because they're obviously, the resellers were on there. They'd bought stock previously, and it was also a slow time of year. So it was, because I'm very seasonal, as you can imagine. A lot of people are very Q4, Q1. I'm very Q2, Q3. So I had to sit and wait, and that hurt financially while I sold out. And then I had, for example, some reseller had put a blue blanket as a listing image. I was like, okay, so I had to get all that sorted out. So I did temporarily go back to the dark side of Vendor Central. in order to get a lot of these things sorted out. And then once I was all sorted, there were a couple of other reasons why I also left, which was primarily due to Amazon matching prices, which some of the other retailers were doing, which was just crazy stuff. I then moved everything over to Seller Central. So I'd started on Seller Central around 2014, 2015. So I started in the UK, kind of started to learn a little bit how it all worked. Then I launched in the US, then I launched in Canada, and then I launched on Australia as well.
How big a team? Is this just you, or do you have people working for you?
So I do have people working for me, but I don't actually, I say employ anyone as such, because the business is so seasonal. It's difficult to give people things to do kind of all year round. But I have got a team of freelancers, some of whom have been working with me on and off for like 9 years, 5 years, 3 or 4 years. And, they do like maybe 20 hours a week or something like that, which works really well because I have a combination of people who then it means that although I've got a smallish team, I've got a variety in that team. And I actually, at the moment, for example, I did have a VA in the Philippines, but I just sadly had to part ways. And I will probably be getting another one who's a little bit more skilled in other areas, but sort of more like the admin type thing. But one of my biggest costs is actually probably people in my business, because I like working with people I like. And I think, my ethos is not all about making every cent. Like, it's not about cutting margins and not enjoying life. It's about, I want to run a business. I want to enjoy what I'm doing. I want to grow the business. So one of the things I often say is quite funny when I deal with a lot of Amazon sellers. They're all about the data, the numbers, they're crunching everything all the time. And I'm more about the emotions, the feelings, I sort of am more intuitive. And when I get up in the morning, I don't think, how can I sell more snoo shades? I think, how can I help more parents? Because I know the benefits my products give to parents. And I want more parents to know that freedom that they can get, and they don't know about the product. And that's the most frustrating point for me, is that why don't these people know it exists? Because I get people telling me off. They're like, well, I wish I'd known about this for my first one, or, I've only just found out about you. And I'm like, well, we try. We're only a small company. But I also got a range of really good agencies as well. So I have an Amazon PPC agency. I have a Facebook ads agency, someone who looks after the search engine optimization and Google ads, PR as well. So I outsource as much as I can, because for me, it's about quality of life. I don't want to be doing all of that. I obviously am it is me really pretty much at the top, and then everyone feeds into me. But I quite enjoy that because I like being involved. So that's just the way I am.
How many hours would you say you're actually working a week now on average? I mean, I know it's going to be seasonal and come and go, but is this a 5-10 hours a week where you're just kind of overseeing all the agencies and checking the reports and getting guidance, or are you having to
it depends.
Get down into the weeds a little bit still?
Yeah, no, it depends really. So, the problem also is they do say when you enjoy your work, it doesn't feel like work.
That's true.
So, and the other thing is I am able to put it down when I want to. That's the key thing. So when I was working in a corporate background, you've got to do the 9 to 5 slog or longer. And, you never really, other than you have your 4 weeks holiday and that's it. But what I tend to do is, I interact a lot with my customers, for example. So if someone messages in on Instagram or Facebook or anywhere really, and one of the team isn't on duty, I'll usually answer it. But I don't really consider that work, if you know what I mean. That's just helping someone out. In terms of actual work, I say I'm quite lazy. I'm not really lazy. It's just more that I'm not very organized. I'm not one of these people who sort of goes and sits at the desk and what have you. So I have moments. So for example, if I've got to do a tax return or I've got to just sort out the accounting, etc., then I can spend 2 days sitting in my chair from like 6 a.m. until midnight every day. But I do it, and I'm like, okay, I'm not doing that again for a while. And then other times I will be a little bit more structured, and I might do like a couple of days, 2 or 3 days of sort of working, probably like 9 till kind of 3-4 o'clock, something like that. And then other days I'll get a bee in my bonnet. I'm like, at the moment I'm developing some new products. So when I'm on one of those days, I might work again, do a really long shift. But the great thing is if I want to go to a conference, I go to a conference. If I want to go on holiday, I go on holiday. If I want to take a day
freedom. Yeah,
it's freedom. That ultimately
it's freedom, and you can set your own schedule where if you got some work to do, you can do it. You can like, okay, I'm just going to buckle down through 6 a.m. to midnight for a couple of days, knock it out, and then I go do whatever I want and go play. Yeah, that's the
advantage of this sort of type of business, really. Is you can do that.
How many SKUs are you managing right now on the line?
I've got 13.
13. Are they just color variations or size variations, or are they actually different things?
I'd say there's really probably, 2 main differences. One's for strollers and one's for kind of cots and pack and plays, really. And then there's different variations and different sizes and different, but that's it, really.
So this, just for the people listening that aren't sitting in front of a computer where they can look it up. So the product is basically, it goes onto a stroller, or you call it prams in the UK, and it blocks out. It's almost like you said it's like a sunshade. So it's like a curtain or something that kind of attaches to it and goes around, or can you describe it, what it
I'm
is?
going to talk American because obviously I know American from selling in the US, you see. Being English, I can translate. So
All right.
I've got one for the stroller bassinet, which is what we call in the UK a pram or a carry cot, which is flat lying where the baby is flat. And there's one that goes kind of over the top like a canopy. And what that does is it blocks all the sun. So babies under 6 months should never be exposed to direct sunlight. So it stops that. And it also helps them sleep, and they can always be used all year round. So to help with sleep, etc. Then there's a version for strollers where the child is sitting up, looking out, so they're able to see out, but also then help to sleep as and when they need to. So, I mean, I used it with my daughter until she was 5, just for like really hardcore big trips and things where she would get too tired to want to move. Then there's one for double stroller.
It blacks it out, or it just knocks out the sun?
94% of light, which is the safest level of light you can block out, because obviously you've got to have the air permeability of the fabric.
And so it it's an accessory. It attaches to any size stroller, or does it have to be sized for different
No,
strollers?
I mean, as I said, as long as if it's a single stroller, I've got a single stroller version. If it's a side-by-side double, I've got a side-by-side double version. So it's just universal size for, there's for the different types. And then there's one for the pack and play as well, which goes over the pack and play.
Why wouldn't the stroller manufacturers just make this part of their stroller?
Well, do you know what? It's a really good question. And I've seen it happen over the last 15 years. And some of them have tried, but they just never make it as well as I do. Because the thing is, what manufacturers often do is they look at their margins a lot tighter. And I've actually got a little bit more flexibility, I think, in my margins. Plus also, this is my one thing, if you know what I mean, and we do it really well. And one of the things I've really hammered home is the safety of my products. So basically what I do is all of my products are safety tested to the normal levels, then they're safety tested above. And that gives parents a confidence. Plus also remember, a stroller manufacturer will make one that fits their buggy, but they're not necessarily going to make one that fits another one. So the good thing is with mine is you can use it on all, parents often have 4 or 5 different strollers. So you can buy one product that works for all of them. Whereas with a manufacturer's one, it will fit that one manufacturer. It won't necessarily move easily to the next or the next or the next.
Have you ever thought about like licensing it to the stroller manufacturers, or partnering with them in some way?
Yeah, I think I did years ago. But to be honest, I kind of feel like it would lose a bit of value in it. So I don't really like the idea of it.
What's the retail price on this?
Oh, I mean, it varies between, in the UK, it's about £20, which is what, $24 or something, to up to maybe $65. So not hugely expensive.
So the $65, what makes that? Is it a different material, or
No,
what makes it?
that's the one that's for the pack and plays. So that's much bigger.
Okay. So what do you do? You said earlier you're not really an Amazon seller, you're a brand. So what is the definition of that? When people are listening, a lot of people think, well, yeah, they're listening and go, well, I'm a brand. I'm on Amazon. I got a brand name and I got a logo and I got, some stuff on my packaging. So I'm a brand too. But they're really not. So what is the true difference between a real brand and someone selling under a name or with a logo on Amazon?
Okay. So a logo is not a brand. A trademark is not a brand. A brand is a personality, basically. And I think what you'll find is that a lot of Amazon sellers, there's no why in why they're selling, if you know what I mean. You need to have a story. So there needs to be a reason for your customer to emotionally engage with you. So that's the difference. A brand is something that a customer can emotionally engage with. So, for example, buying a car, for example, is often not anything other than a brand decision, because it's usually like, oh, my dad used to drive Fords, my uncle used to drive, has just bought a Tesla, my dad hated BMWs, whatever it might be. And you've had these experiences, which are emotional experiences. They're not logical. It's not like, you don't know why your dad hates BMWs. You don't know why, but it's just like you've got these sort of emotional connections with products. And so when you're looking for a car, you're like probably got that in the back of your head. My dad never really liked BMWs. Now, if you hate your dad, you might go and buy a BMW just to spite him. Right? So, that's not a logical purchase, if you know what I mean. And so that's the thing with a real brand, is that there's something there which has some form of an emotional connection where the customer feels like that they're actually engaging with the brand. It's not about the products, it's about the brand, because, a brand can sell multiple different types of products. But by building up trust, by building up kind of a personality, the customer can then basically emotionally engage. So, so there are a lot of sellers on Amazon who use Gmail addresses, right? No, you need a domain. Okay. You need to have a website. You need to have something that shows that you don't just exist on Amazon. If you don't have anything that exists off Amazon, you are not a brand. You're just an Amazon seller. And even if you do have a website, it should be more than like a website that just basically has your basic information. There should always be, as a general rule, if you want to kind of grow as a brand, you really need to have a story, as I said before. So, I do know there's a lot of sellers out there who would probably just say, well, I'm there to make money. Well, okay, that's not really a story anyone's going to give a flying hoo-ha about, right? But a lot of people, it could be that they wanted to give up their day job because they wanted to do this or travel or whatever it might be. It might be that, that they got frustrated with, like me, I've got a story because I invented something. But it can also be, for example, they wanted to raise money for a really good cause. I mean, like Tom's Shoes, for example, they donate like shoes for every shoe that's bought and things like that. So they've started up with something where there's an emotional thing going on there. And I mean, I think, as you know before, there's things like you can use humor, make things funny, but it's just otherwise there's no voice and there's no personality. How do you have a brand story if there is nothing there to really talk about? Because actually a lot of Amazon sellers' brand stories is just a showcase of their products. That's it.
So how do you do that? How are you doing that specifically on Amazon, to having this personality and telling the story? Are you doing that in your A+ content, or do you have interesting graphics and smiley faces and happy moms, or what are you
Yes,
what are you doing to actually
I'm very good at
convey that message when they don't have the ability to talk to you or to meet you or to see the product?
I think it's really important to have a tone of voice, like to have some kind of tone of voice.
Mhm.
So mine is always very friendly, very warm, slightly humorous, but not too humorous because I'm dealing with safety. So I have to be a bit careful. There is, the other day, it was quite funny. I was on Instagram somewhere and someone was going about how important it was to have an authentic voice when you're talking but with your brand. And I said, yeah, but the problem is, I swear, I've got potty mouth and I've got a really wicked sense of humor. And actually, I can be really inappropriate sometimes. So I actually have to play that down when I'm in work mode because of the fact that I respect the fact that my audience is parents who are interested in safety. But I definitely we always have a tone of voice, friendly, instructional, like we're trying to hold the hand of the parent as they're going through. We try and guide them, like this is the product you need, reassuring, like giving them all the information they could possibly need in order to make the purchase decision, reassuring them with like trust. So, I mean, my business so far has probably won about 80 awards. So we show the awards, we show social media proof of the fact that people are out there loving the product, using it, so that they can identify and go, oh yeah, that could be me. Highlighting the things that we know they care about. So they care about safety, they care about how much UV is blocked, making sure those things are there. And that's one way of sort of conveying more of a personality. But I think one of the ways we do it a lot, and this is the other thing, is that, probably I get most of my traffic not on Amazon. Like, yes, the traffic's on Amazon, but when they're on Amazon, they're usually looking for my brand. So they've already heard about us. So I think a lot of it comes from social media. So on social media, it's very like, getting out there, working with influencers, getting them to share the product benefits, etc. So they start building up. Then they come to our social media. They sort of see, who I am. There's videos of me talking. There's videos of the product being used in different ways. There's lots of testimonials. We get a lot of celebrities. We just had a lady today. I don't actually know who she is, but she's got 3 million followers on Instagram. And she's using her snooze shade when she's out with her little boy. I actually had no clue who she was. But we get that a lot. We get people, we've had royalty use my products. So I think the thing is, it's sort of working around. So when I look at things to spend my money on, I'm probably the stingiest on my Amazon PPC, and I'm probably more likely to be a bit more rash on spending something to do with marketing, like maybe sponsoring a podcast for a particular baby sleep consultant, or doing an event or something along those lines, or investing in product to give to influencers and the time of my team to support those influencers. Because that's the other thing. I mean, we regularly get, in fact, actually, funnily enough, I've literally, one of my team left this on the desk where someone is sending her product back, and I think she left it for me to read. And it said, I must say, I'm gutted it's not for us. The quality and customer service you provide is one of the best I've experienced for a long time and is a credit to you. Especially enjoy the cat gifts. Now, that's also because I put gifts in when someone orders off my website, they get a chain of emails. And the first one, for example, is thank you for your order. And I've got the girls from Friends jumping up and down, like, I'm really excited, whatever. Then the second one is about, have you read your instructions? And I couldn't find any interesting gifts for that. So I found one of a cat reading a book, instead. And then, so the thing is, it's just putting in some personality and some thought to the fact that
that's branding for sure.
That is branding, yeah.
And it's reconfirming that they made the right decision.
Exactly.
As well, and making them feel. But how do you? That's harder to do when you have a product that's a one-time buy, because I'm assuming most people are buying they have a baby one time, and you said it could be used between different trams or uh, dollies or whatever the heck you call them over there, um, that they can be used between different ones. Maybe that they need to buy a second one for some reason because they're pushing two different ones. But most of this is one-time purchases, one and done, right? So, are you doing anything to like keep these, build a community or of moms, or keep these people around so that maybe you can? I know you said the goal is not to sell something; it's to take care of a problem. Maybe you can help them fix other problems that results in another product down the road.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the thing is, you say that, but the business keeps growing every year, 10%, 10%,
Well, those
10%.
babies keep happening, yeah, except in Japan and a few places where the population's going the other way.
Well,
Uh,
even everywhere, the population is declining. To be fair, I think probably there's probably a few places in the world but they probably don't use so many buggies or strollers. But no, I think what it is, I mean, there are various products, and we try. There is a product for when they're baby, then one when they move to the stroller, and there's one for the pack and play, and you might have two children, so you get this side by side. But if I'm honest,
what
most
is a pack and play? I'm sorry, I'm not a parent. What's a pack and play?
the American word for a travel cot is what we call it, or an
Oh, okay,
Australian
okay.
water cot. You're too cosmopolitan, you see.
I am.
You speak English too well. So yeah, we don't get multiple buys. But actually, funny enough, I mean, this is what I mean about being a bit lazy, is that I've known for years that there are other products that I could sell to customers that would work because of the fact that they're all in the same kind of genre, but they're not going to be inventions. But what I'm going to do is brand them as like Snoo Shade Essentials, basically. So they're the sort of product that I know my parents will buy, because if they're going to buy them, they might as well buy them from me rather than from someone else. So that is something that's in the pipeline. I have also got a product as well that I'm looking at doing for children with special needs as well, which has been asked for quite a lot. So I'm busy cutting up prototypes and things for that at the moment. But I mean, as I say, the thing is that whilst I get exactly what you're saying, but the thing is that it is only really a one-hit wonder to set. But the great thing, I think, is also when a parent has one, they then love it so much that they want to give it to their friends. So, I mean, I had a lady, for example, who messaged me because she wanted to buy 4 of them as baby shower gifts for her friends. And I was like, oh, yeah, sure. And she said, oh, can you give me a discount? I was like, oh, yeah, no worries. And I gave her quite a big discount because she'd bought quite a few before. So I think I gave her like 20 or 25% off, which is a really significant discount. Anyway, it turns out, I mean, you may not know who he is, but one of the giftees was Ollie Mures, who's quite a well-known singer. She ended up giving, and he's been using his Snoo Shade. He's had it in his, posted in his social media and whatever. And I was like, if you'd have told me, I'd have given it to you for free,
Yeah.
But that's the thing. And people like giving it as a gift as well, which is great. But yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, I sometimes look at people who are selling like supplements and I'm like, wow, that would just be amazing, because once you've built your brand, really people have to keep taking the thing, and you're constantly ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. But like I said, I think, I'm quite happy kind of how I am, really, which is I quite also like the seasonality, because it is, I say crazy busy. It's actually less crazy busy now. We're selling more, but it's less crazy busy, I think, because over the years we've had a lot of like questions about safety and health and all the rest of it, and we've sort of knocked a lot of those on the head now. So there's this assumption that it's fine, and we get a lot less of the sort of it's going to kill my baby kind of comments on social media that we used to get. So it's actually a lot quieter in some ways. And then there's other things to do, like investigating other retail options. I'm looking at maybe doing something with a Facebook group. Like you say, building a bit more of a community around like things that I know my parents would be interested in. But I suppose I'm just like, there's no mad rush. So it's all pootling along quite nicely as it is. I mean, as you know, I've been copied by Aldi. I've been copied by the Chinese left, right, and centre. They're always copying my products. I mean, I shut America down last year. Because I basically just got copied so much by the best-selling product, which is the one for the travel cot or pack and play. And the Chinese just basically were copying and selling like a $20 product. They were buying, and you could see they're buying them off Alibaba for like, £4, £5. It wasn't the same product as mine, obviously, but it was an interpretation of it. And I can't beat, my product cost me about $27 or so to make. So I'm not going to be selling it at like $20 because I'd be making a loss. That'd be stupid. So I just cleared the decks, and then I've had a revisit, looked at like manufacturing costs, etc., etc. Mine will still be one of the more expensive models. But the business didn't suffer because I came out of the US. That's the interesting thing. I mean, I shut Canada and the US down at the same time. And I'm still turning over more than I did before.
Do you not have IP on this?
So you can't really. I didn't get patent when I started, so I haven't really. I have actually got a couple of things for newer products, but nothing like for the product when I very first started. I didn't really know what I was doing in the same way, so I didn't protect it, to be honest, and I should have done. But having said that, it still doesn't matter because people still choose the brand. I mean, I get it all the time. People are like, "Oh, I looked at the other options, but in the end, I've just gone for yours because I want the safety."
Mm-hmm.
And when you're talking about baby products, particularly, safety is critical.
You want those 80 awards that
Well,
you
they want
have.
the awards, they want the reassurance. And also they can see me. They can see the person who invented it. There's a few videos on Instagram and TikTok and all the rest of it. So I'm not massively visible. So funnily enough, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that somebody else couldn't take the brand over at some point and run it because you've still got that story. So there's, for example, I think Ezra Firestone did it with the Boom brand, where it was owned by, I can't remember her name, Cindy, and she passed away, and he's taken it on and grown it, still. So I don't think you could remove Snooze Shade because the thing is also then it's got heritage and history behind it. So it doesn't matter that it was started by Cara, 15 years ago, because it was started by me 15 years ago. Now somebody new might take over. Not that I'm planning on exiting, by the way, at any point in the near future. But the good thing is I sort of think it's interlinked with me, but not so much like some brands are, where they're so linked with their founder that if the founder leaves, the whole business collapses.
Why would you said you're not considering exiting. Why would that not be an option on the table?
Because to be honest, I don't need to, which is that sort of financially, I'm absolutely fine as I am. I don't need a big payout. I'd be bored within 4 nanoseconds. Like, what would I do? And I've seen a lot of my friends sell out 7, 8 figures, 9-figure exits. And then they're like, well, what do I do now? And then they try and get back into the Amazon game or build another brand. And it's a lot harder. So I would rather carry on doing what I'm doing, which is kind of still growing mine and enjoying what I'm doing and, keep going. I mean, I'm only, 53. I can see myself doing this for at least another 5 years at least. And even then, what I might do is I might then get someone else to take it over and I'll just be lurking around in the background slightly dodgily while they benefit from it, etc. Because the thing is that I've seen it many times. I mean, Ben Leonard, for example, he sold his brand and he's, I think, has either bought it back or I think he did buy it back in the end.
Yeah, he bought it back. He's going to try to do a little case study on how to resurrect a brand or something.
Exactly, because they trashed it, right? Yeah. And that's the thing. No one cares about your business the way you do. And if I'm really honest, at the moment, I enjoy it. It allows me to go to conferences. It allows me to go and hang out in really nice places and meet people talking about interesting things, doing interesting things. I mean, look at the amazing day that you put on in Iceland for us, which was just incredible. Whale watching, super jeeping, I mean, it was just incredible. Like, how am I going to do that if I haven't got a business behind me doing it? So, and the thing is also, like I said, I enjoy what I do. And I think, if you're doing it and you don't enjoy it, then exit, right? And the other thing is that nowadays the retirement age is getting later and later and later, and you need more and more money to live on in retirement. Well, I'm not in a corporate job. And that, frankly, is like a dream for me because I have the freedom. I've always hated, I was always a round peg in a square hole. I always hated that whole, I hate 9 to 5. I hate that whole ethos. I hate, there are so many things that just wrong, not being able to disagree with someone if you think they're wrong because they're higher up in the business than you are and all the rest of it. I earn more money than a lot of my friends do working in a corporate job, but I get to do what the hell I like when I like.
That's the way to be it. That's exactly the way to do it. That's what attracts a lot of people to this.
Exactly.
And they don't realize it can be a lot of work. And we got in at a time, starting a brand or before all these marketplaces, whether it's Amazon or Shopify or whatever, at the very beginning, which it was easier then than it is for a lot of people now. And like you just said, people that exit, I know a lot of them too that have taken some money off the table and now they're bored, or they try to do it again, and most of them fail, or struggle because, well, it's 2 reasons. One, it's much more difficult now, and they're not used to putting in that kind of work, and also some of them are right place, right time, and they actually don't know what they're doing, and they just got lucky, and we built something up and had a moat around them with reviews and stuff. So there's a couple different reasons there, but yeah, I see it a lot too, and if you're enjoying it and it's paying your bills, there's no reason to sell. The only thing is if the market crashes or something happens, and then you don't want to ever look back and go, man, I could have gotten $4 million. Now this thing's worth 100,000. That's the downside to it. But in your space, I don't think that's likely to happen. I mean,
First of all, I think that's unlikely to happen. But second of all, you've also got to look at the cumulative amount of money you can take out of a business. So I've been going for 15 years. So 4 million probably is not that far off in terms of what I've been able to take out, and then also very tax efficiently as well. So it's, rather than getting a great big lump sum, which then gets taxed completely, I'm actually taking out quite large sums, not necessarily.
You get to write off all these trips to Cancun and Iceland and everywhere too as a business expense.
Correct. And then also you've got, they are a business expense, in absolute honesty, they're a genuine business expense.
Well,
but then
they genuinely are, yeah.
Things like my pension, which I think in America is that a 401 or a 301?
Yeah, 401 usually, yeah.
So
there are pensions too, but that's kind of
right.
It's not as common anymore as like a 401k.
Yeah, so I'm chucking in the maximum amount you can put into your pension every year, and I have been doing that for the last 8 years. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I was in a corporate job. That's tax efficient because it's coming out pre-corporation tax, pre-profit. So all of these things, that you can do, can all sort of make life a lot easier. And as I say, I think the other thing is that genuinely, I enjoy what I do. And when I get out of bed and just think, oh God, I've had enough. Don't get me wrong. I have had days like that in the past. I have had, one of my friends, I remember in the very early days when, I worked like a freaking dog. I remember I had a baby as well. So my daughter was about 18 months old. And I was working like a dog. I would get up at like 6 a.m. Then I'd also be working and looking after Holly. Then I'd be like doing family dinner. Then I'd be going like putting Holly down. Then I'd be working until maybe midnight, then getting up again. And, that was my life. I did actually have, in 2010, I did actually have a form of a breakdown because I just got so overwhelmed and I basically fell apart. So personal health is very important to me. And that's one of the reasons why, I look at what other people do and I watch and I'm like, do I want to do that? No, I'm all right, actually. I don't need to work so crazy because actually, like if I'm doing okay and I haven't brought on these new products, then I bring on some new products. I'm like, oh, wow, that's really cool. That's doing really well. And I think that's the thing is that I think there's often a need for speed that's unnecessary. You need to maybe sometimes let things bed in a bit and before you kind of go on to the next thing. And that's another thing also I'd say about like Amazon, for example. So I shut the US down and Canada. Has my business like suffered on a bigger level? No, because actually I'm more profitable and I'm turning over slightly less, but I'm actually more profitable because the US business wasn't as profitable, whereas my UK business is. And because I'm focused on the UK, I'm growing it more, which is why it's growing. I think we're at least 10% up this year so far, and I haven't even hit really busy season. And that's not through me doing anything that I can actually put my finger on and go, oh, I made that, therefore I've increased by 10%. It's more just that sort of general awareness, keeping going, keeping the communication out there.
Are you doing Germany as well, or just the UK?
No, just the UK.
Just the UK.
Yeah.
And all your distribution, your wholesale, it's all UK, or is some of that outside the UK too?
Well, I've got a distributor in New Zealand, but they do a fair amount, but not huge amounts. And then other than that, I've got a couple of smallish retailers in the UK who I work with because I like them. And that's really it. And then the only other plans I've got to expand are going into Ireland because I've always done really well in Ireland. And now we've got an actual fulfillment centre over in Ireland. So I'm probably going to start looking at that fairly soon. But yeah, Germany, etc. The problem with the EU, and by the way, the UK and the EU are very separate. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Like saying America and Canada, we are different countries, very much so. No, trading in the EU is a challenge. Unfortunately, it's a bit like, in the States, you've got like so many states, and every state's got different rules and regulations, and that's the same with the EU. Every country's got its own regulations and its own rules and its own tax and all the rest of it. And they're just not so fun to play with. And they can be quite sort of stick in the mud and all the rest of it. And, it's very like, you will follow the line, which is not necessarily the way most entrepreneurs like to kind of walk. I'm that registered. I could go live in the EU anytime, but it's just whether or not I really want to or not. I just can't decide really.
So on your new product ideas, do you get these from your customers by looking at emails and being actively involved in there? Or are you polling them or going out to them and saying, hey, what other types of stuff would you guys love to have that we can help you with?
Kevin.
What's that?
I said that would be a really good idea. Because that would be like data driven and all the rest of it. No, most of it is I just kind of, obviously there's things like frequently bought together. So that's an obvious match. And there are some things that I know, frequently bought together, they might as well buy my version of that than someone else's. And I can do bundles and all the rest of it. But then there's other products which I just know my customers. So I know that they're going to like this, they're going to like that, they're going to like this. And so obviously then I go and do the research on Amazon and see what kind of sales volume. I also test things out on my website. So, I've done it for the last few years. I introduce a few new products on the website and see which ones sell, because, that can be quite a good indicator. So basically, I just sort of, there is some data involved. I mean, my ad agency are much more data driven, so they'll be much more likely to kind of go, oh yeah, this would be a good product to do. Or I'll say, I'm thinking about doing this. And they might say to me, oh yes, that's got good volume or whatever it might be. But to be honest, I just kind of know what my customers would like. So I'm sort of fairly confident that the products I'm looking at, and the other thing I'm doing it for is I'm always about is in marketing, I talk about octopus tentacles. So, making sure you reach your customer in multiple different ways. So, you reach them on email, you reach them on Instagram, you reach them on TikTok, etc. And it's the same for products. So if I've got these other products that are in other categories, that's another octopus tentacle that goes out and exposes the brand to them. And then they'll get the product, that'll tell them more about the other products, and therefore they'll hopefully come over and buy the other products.
What percentage of your customers do you estimate come from referrals, from someone seeing someone walking their baby through the park and they see your product on, like, oh, where'd you get that? Oh, it's I got it on Amazon, or I got it on this website. And what do you have any idea of how much is that versus how much is all your efforts for ads and SEO and everything?
Well, yeah, no, I'd say it's probably more the being out and about with them, really, and people seeing them. So, I mean, I don't know is the answer, but I do know that when we get a lot of things like, oh, yeah, my friend has one, or I saw this on holiday or whatever. So, I mean, I'd say maybe 50% or something like that, probably. That's the benefit of Amazon. So, the fact is that Amazon is a place for people to find a product that they don't necessarily know is around because it's in the right category. So they're looking for a pram sunshade. They find my product. It's the best seller. It has the most reviews, et cetera, et cetera. And also, it can be shown, for different things. And then, the website and everything else is for the people who kind of, they're looking for something. And obviously, look, we all know your Google is going to go downhill fairly soon. I mean, it's going to probably the standard SEO strategy of the last 15 years is going to completely pivot with AI. But for example, you see a lot of the work is really interesting. I had 2 new team members here today, and I just said to them, look, just put into ChatGPT. I said, have you mentioned Snoo Shade to them before? And they said no. And I said, okay, just put in my friend's just had a baby. What's the best pram sunshade that she should buy? Guess what it recommended?
You?
Correct. Because the thing is, even though Google, I think it's really interesting. So I know my SEO guys really like, oh my God, search engine optimization as we know it is changing, and it's a whole, but actually it still goes back to the fundamentals. The more you put out there, and this is why being on Amazon only is so dangerous, the more you put out off Amazon,
the more credibility you have. And the AI, the LLMs like that. They like those press releases. They like those mentions on other websites for someone, the picture of the royalty that's on their website or whatever it may be. All that stuff factors in.
Yeah.
To it.
It's why it needs to be the part of a strategy for any seller needs to start thinking more like a brand, which is actually putting content out there online, reviews off Amazon. And reviews are not all about Amazon. Reviews should be look for review websites, look for bloggers, look for influencers, look for they have quite a lot of this sort of magazines, websites where they're pulling together reviews of different products. Go out there and be a bit more proactive. Get out and actually put your product into the real world, not just Amazon. Take it away from Amazon and start thinking about it as a product that exists outside.
Yeah, like Google My Business and Google Knowledge Graph are 2 things that can help you quite a bit too, that a lot of people don't do. What do you see is changing the most in Amazon since you started selling on Amazon in 2015 or whatever it was? What have you seen evolve for? And what do the people listening to this that are selling on Amazon, whether they're starting or maybe they're going right now, what do they need to be paying attention to? And what are some of the changes that you see coming up on the horizon, or are there any?
I don't know. I think Amazon when I started, it was 10 years ago, and Amazon was still in kind of, I say, startup mode, really, in terms of pushing FBA forward and all of those sorts of things. That's all now established. And what we've seen over the last few years is the increase of costs, because Amazon is going to keep trying to throw more and more costs at sellers, not less. And so, the people who are operating on incredibly small margins are going to struggle, because, Amazon is going to want to take more and more money from you one way or the other, whether it's to pay for storage, for, fulfillment, moving it around different centers, whether it's advertising. I mean, now they've just changed the deals option, where that used to be like a cost effective thing. I think now is it like $800 or something that you have to,
something like that. Yeah.
So I think you're going to see more and more of that. And this is why it's equally important you get off Amazon, because, you shouldn't have all your eggs in one basket. You should be operating a business that doesn't just operate in one area. Because, it's going to be interesting, because obviously TikTok's coming after Amazon, with like hardcore, whether or not, and you see, the thing is also shoppers are going to change, like what you also have to remember is your Amazon customers, possibly they might be the slightly older customer, right? And your TikTok are the younger generation. And the more they get used to shopping on TikTok, that's going to overtake, because it's a bit like, for example, social media. I use Facebook still. My daughter, I think she's got a Facebook account, but only because I asked her to open one because of some reason or other. She's on TikTok. She's on Instagram. Those are her two primary, and Snapchat. Those are her three things. Now, she's the person of the future. She's aware of Amazon, because obviously I end up, when she buys books and Kindles and all these things and videos and stuff, she's buying on mummy's account. So she knows how to get onto Amazon in that way. But whether or not she's going to really be the person who goes to Amazon to buy, or whether she's going to, people are going to start literally putting their full catalogs onto TikTok or another platform. Let's not forget, we're a constantly moving environment now. And with AI, things are going to speed up even faster. I mean, with ChatGPT, moving into retail as well, or into e-commerce, that's going to be a real game changer, and, it could even be that, you just end up, maybe in the end, it's going to be a case of just going onto ChatGPT and saying, oh, I want to buy this. And it goes off and finds you the best prices and tells you, right, these are your options. And then, would you like me to buy it for you? Yeah, I'll put it through my ChatGPT account.
I think that's going to be a bigger and bigger thing. It's interesting times that we're living in. I think there's a lot of big changes coming up. But at the end of the day, though, if you're a true brand like you are, you've got a big advantage. And I think that's the biggest lesson is become a brand, not a seller of products.
Exactly.
And no matter what happens, whether it's SEO changes or ChatGPT buying or different social media platform, if you're a brand and known as that brand, that's the big shield that you have around you that's going to help you sustain and grow.
All the people who do the big exits, what is the common theme?
Yeah, branding.
Right? Yeah. Brands. No one goes and buys a brand called XYZJKL because it's selling a very successful garlic crusher.
Well, they did. The name of the company was Thrasio, and now they're no longer around.
You cheeky monkey. But I think it is. It's there's a definite power in having a brand. There's a power in not just selling products. And actually, if I'm honest, you know what everyone should be doing? If you're go and get onto bloody ChatGPT and say to it, "This is my product. How do I make a brand from this?" ChatGPT will help. Yeah. I mean, I at the moment I use ChatGPT for everything. I mean, if it could brush my teeth, I would get it to help. Help me.
That's coming. That's coming. It's going to be the little robotic arm that's Bluetooth enabled, and you're just going to upload a picture of your mouth smiling and
brush harder here. But in all honesty, but the other thing I would say, and this is similar to the Amazon seller type scenario. You're selling a crappy product on Amazon, you're never going to do very well, right? Because it's all about the quality of the product. At the end of the day, even if you've got a great brand, but you're delivering rubbish products, that's not going to help anyone, because
that's not a great brand. A brand is the quality of the product too. Right. You look at the iPhone or something like that. It's the messaging, it's the packaging, it's the avatar, it's the personality, but it's also the quality of the product is important. That's an area where a lot of people don't pay as much attention as they should.
And then the thing with ChatGPT is the same thing, which is if you put in a rubbish prompt, you're going to get rubbish out. So you actually need to really start understanding what it is you're researching. So if you don't understand marketing, then get ChatGPT to give you a course on marketing. Tell it to teach you like the 101 basics of marketing. Tell it to teach you the 101 basics. Tell it. Like, there was a website which I think is probably redundant now because ChatGPT would do it now, but that sort of talked to me like I'm a 5-year-old. But it's that similar sort of ethos, which is, you need to understand marketing. I mean, it was funny. I was at a conference not so long ago, and somebody came in after me, and when he spoke to me, he said, "Oh, are you a marketing agency?" I said, "No, I've got my own brand." He was like, "Oh, wow," because from the way I talk, I'm taught marketing is. In fact, I literally said this today to my 2 new team members. I said, "I've seen this through history, right? So I remember, like in the 1980s, when there was and the 1990s, sorry, when there was the big crash. The first thing companies do is cut their marketing departments, right? It's the first thing they've always done. They keep sales and they lose marketing. The problem is, how do you sell if no one knows about your product? And marketing is the how they know about your product. So, that's why it's really important, because something will sell if they know about it. You almost don't necessarily need the sales team if you're marketing enough. So one of the things I do is, it doesn't matter. Like when COVID hit, I didn't just go like, oh my God, I'm going to panic and not do anything. I was like, right, let's ramp this up. Let's get out there doing more, and actually I had a really good year that year.
Well, Cara, this has been great. I really appreciate you taking some time to chat with me today here on the AMPM podcast.
It's always a pleasure and never a chore.
Never. This has been fun. I always enjoy speaking with you, whether it's at BDSS or one of the other events. We just have to put on the thumbnail. What's your little thing that you're always known for in the group? The toe pictures or something? Yeah. The toes in the sand pictures or whatever it is.
Yeah. I'm well famous in the Amazon industry for toe shots. I've had men posting toe shots like, with boots on, without boots, etc. I'm doing a toe shot.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. That's the Cara brand right there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, if people want to learn about your brand or reach out to you or connect with you or something, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, it's very easy because I am actually the only Cara sayer in the world, which makes it easy for everyone. So like LinkedIn, Facebook, it depends. If I haven't met you, I probably won't accept, unfortunately, because it's my private, it's more private, although I know I've got a lot of people on there. My brand is Snoo Shade, which is very easily accessible everywhere on every kind of social media channel, etc. So yeah, just however you like, really.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Cara. I'm sure I'll see you at another BDS event or some other event here in the near future.
Oh, absolutely. I won't stay away.
So if you're not a subscriber to the $1 Billion Seller newsletter, billiondollarsellers.com, you're missing out on what's happening, how the Amazon industry is changing, how to actually do some of this kind of branding that Cara and I talked about on Amazon and on other platforms as well. Some of the new ways to optimize everything. We cover all this every Monday and Thursday in the totally free $1 Billion Sellers newsletter. So if you're not a subscriber, be sure to go to billiondollarsellers.com and sign up today. We'll be back again next week with another awesome episode of the AMPM podcast. Every single Thursday, brand new episodes coming out, so don't miss them. If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, share this episode with somebody if you thought it was interesting and they could benefit from it. We always appreciate that as well. Or you can even leave a comment down in the comments and say how much you like it or how much you hate it, or the sound of my voice just is like fingernails on a chalkboard, or whatever you want to say. You can throw that down in the comments as well. Have a great week, and we'll see you again next time.